We began our journey at RADPAIR with a simple goal: to bring joy back to reading cases. Along that journey, we built something extraordinary, RADPAIR 2.0, a system helping radiologists process millions of reports each month simply by speaking to it, as AI creates the full report for them. The mission of RADPAIR has always been to advance radiologist workflows and empower them to serve as the conductor of the workflow orchestra. At RADPAIR, we believe radiologists deserve software that truly empowers them. Tools that remove non-value-added tasks, like retrieving prior reports in real time, systems that can speak to you when urgent information is needed, provide differential diagnoses for findings, and even control imaging viewports to navigate PACs, all while keeping you focused on patient care.
If you kind of think about AI as like an airplane sitting on the runway, you have to think about, well, how did we get there? So I kind of describe it as the tarmac, and so there's like these connection pieces that need to be present for us to be able to do some of the work that we were talking about. You know, like if the dream is the conductor of this workflow orchestration is the radiologist, the person who's speaking to the system and actions are happening, there's a lot of connection pieces that need to be made. We need to speak the same language. We have to have the same schemas, the syntax and ontologies. There has to be canonical orders for the things we kind of do. And that sort of open workflow AI layer is, I think, missing right now throughout the industry. And I think if all of the vendors and some of the consortia that are out there got together and said, you know, we need to solve this problem first, then I think you'll see a lot of value being unlocked. And so if you want, for example, I'm sitting there reading a case, and there's a mass that I'm looking at. Maybe it's a pancreatic mass, and I'm wondering to myself, you know, what did the previous radiologists say about this? And instead of me trying to go through and figure out where is that prior report, let me scroll through there, let me find it, let me read it. If I could never take my eyes off those images and just ask the question, hey, what did the previous radiologists say about this pancreatic mass? And the system speaks to me and says, well, it measured 3.0 centimeters. Okay, well, now it's measuring 3.2 centimeters and there's retroperitoneal lymphadenopathy. Please add that to the report, right? And the actions are taking place because you have those connection mechanisms, you have the AI understanding what it needs to do. That's when we're really going to start unlocking this value.
We're all interested in how the radiologist interacts with those images and those viewports. So what do you do with those viewports? I mean, there's great examples of, I think, as it talked about, what happened in the prior. So load the prior images, right? Right now to load the prior images takes multiple steps, multiple mouse clicks, multiple systems, right? You're going out to your VNA, you're saying, grab that study, load it up here, choose a new hanging protocol. So all those different things that really come from, like Avez said, a thought. What did that prior image look like, right? So, with Agentic AI, if you can do all those steps and then take it and get it from a voice command, right? Because, some things are quicker to give a voice event. Vez talked about the AEP, the action event protocol. So if the words load that prior and set this hanging protocol, can all happen just that quickly with just that fewer interactions, that's a huge event, right? A huge improvement. Selecting which tools, on a typical PACS workstation right now, you right click, you open up a context menu, you go to some sub menu and you finally say, give me the linear measurement tool. Right, if instead you just say, let me measure that lesion, right? Because that's really what you thought. That was the thought in your head, right? Setting window level presets, you're navigating through some known structure, right? Show me the liver, show me the right kidney, for example. Things like that. All of this can be done much more quickly sometimes with voice controls, and then Agentic AI to go out to the other systems if it's something like load a prior, go to the VNA to get that data. As opposed to long sequence of mouse operations. We're not saying get rid of the mouse, right? Of course, but we're saying many things the radiologist does can be done more efficiently this way. So that's going to make the radiologist more efficient. But here's something I think is even cooler about it, right? Veza said, you had this thought, but then you had to go do all these steps to do it, right? That takes cognitive focus. Right. So if your thought can be naturally spoken and a bunch of things happen, talk to other systems, get all this stuff to happen properly, you've taken that cognitive focus of the radiologist's minds out of it. And I think that really helps a lot with burnout. Right. So you're not you're cognitively focusing on the things that the radiologist adds value, interpreting the images, figuring out differential diagnosis and things like that, rather than, oh, what do I right click here? Do I left click here? Do I have to go over to my VNA to get that prior or not? That type of change in cognitive focus, I think, is going to be a huge win for this, even more than efficiency. And then you put the efficiency, the ability to remove some of that cognitive focus on menial, trivial tasks, and all of a sudden we're helping burnout, which is a huge problem.
Yeah, for sure.
The PAIR in RADPAIR stands for Parallel AI Reading, and today we're proud to introduce the PAIRsdk, unlocking the power of agentic AI. This SDK has been built by RADPAIR through a collaboration of multiple partners throughout our field.
As we've been thinking about, okay, well, how do we create an ontology, a schema, a protocol for imaging? We've been saying, well, we're not going to keep this proprietary. We want to unlock that for everyone in the industry. And so what we're doing is we're creating a coalition of partners all across the industry. And this includes large practices, Silicon Valley, AI hosting providers, and in B2B practices and partners such as the ones in PACs industry, Worklist, other places. And we're saying to the world, let's come together on this. Let's all agree that this is the right way to do things, and that we make that protocol, that standard, completely open source, completely extensible. And we put it out to the world and we say, look, everyone can contribute to this. Everybody can win together.
The role of vendors in open standards in imaging informatics has been undervalued over the years. I think they need to be playing a much more central role in bringing us towards the overall ecosystem that we all want to see, where the barriers to creating really useful, exciting tools are lowered, and it's not an ordeal every time, because all of the tools that are participating, which are obviously made by the vendors, include open access points so that they can not just serve their function, but be used as parts in larger systems. And so I think, obviously in order for that to happen, the vendors have to be able to essentially design those, right? Like they're the ones who are really capable of designing it. And so where I think that academics have, like me, have wanted to be in kind of a gatekeeper role, I think it's much more appropriate for it to be much more of a partnership where, kind of the subject matter experts have a contributory role, or maybe a moderator role, to help bring kind of the important voices from the vendor together, and then advise them and add kind of the subject matter content that needs to be incorporated into the system together. So I really hope, and it's been the goal of the Open Imaging Data Model Project, to move toward a world where it's much more of an even partnership between informatics thought leaders and the vendors who are actually going to try and bring both those ideas and some of their own ideas to fruition.
5 unified components. 1. Report Document Schema, or RDS, the total canonical truth of the report. 2. Actions and Events Protocol, or AEP, actions, safety rules, permissions, and audit logging. 3. Report Display Template, or RDT, the rendering of the RDS that each organization can choose to customize. 4. Report Ingestion Pool, or RIP, case inputs like AI classifier suggestions, measurements, SR data, and other metadata. 5. The Model Context Protocol Server, or MCP, universal plug for AI to understand the logic and component pieces of RDS, AEP, RDT, and RIP. Acting together with our industry partners and governing bodies, this SDK unlocks enormous value for both radiologists and patients.
If you look outside of healthcare and see what do software development companies do? Let's look at Google. Let's look at Meta. Let's look at all these companies, and then look at standards committees within in software. They work hand in hand, and they adopt each other's things. There's some incredible examples of this. We talk about, without getting too technical, this idea of when you type to ChatGPT and you get a response back. There's a chat-enabled API that OpenAI put out that said, okay, we're going to create something called a system message. That's the instructions, and then they're going to get a user message back. And they put that out to the world, and they said, we think we should do it this way. And then everybody adopted it. Why? Because it was useful and it was easy, and there was no argument about it. It was just like, yeah, okay, this makes sense. Similarly, you have Anthropic, which is another big foundation model company. It's a vendor, and they put out something called MCP, which is Model Context Protocol. And they put it out, why? Because they needed to create their own products with it. They needed to do things with it. But they figured, well, we're not going to compete on this layer. This is just an exoskeleton of what the entire industry needs. So they put it out there, and they said, and maybe other people will find this useful. Turns out everybody finds it useful, right? So I think that the way that we work together in the future is to work with the societies that already exist, but the vendors need to play a significant role and also create standards and put things out, and not feel that that's the place where we need to compete. I feel very strongly about that let's compete on the things that are those sci-fi level actions and events, those products, those features, not on the layers that allow us to all work together. So I think if that was one thing I would take away, it would be that, just vendors, consortia, everyone working together to deliver this.
Remember, the future of radiology workflows lies in eliminating non-value-added tasks and enabling radiologists to do what they do best: diagnose and care for patients.
So, coming from a CDS background in my previous company, the software was always judged on the number of clicks that it was adding to the radiologist workflow. Always told throughout PACs, CDS, the minimum number of clicks being added to the radiologist workflow, so they're not being distracted from what they're doing. Something like this doesn't just remove 1 or 2 clicks, it removes a lot of clicks. Like Avis and Kevin were talking about, if you can use your voice to command the screen, bring up previous reports, manipulate the view of the images in the PACs, you're almost taking away 90% of the mouse movement. So you're not adding clicks, you're actually subtracting a lot of clicks away from it, and a lot of distraction from the radiologist. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of what this SDK and the Agentic AI and reporting will bring.
Yeah, Kevin, does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've counted clicks for 25 years, right? Just like Graham just said, you're speaking my language when you say count clicks. So yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier, that you're thinking and removing so much time. I mean, LLM reporting, augmented reporting is already saving the radiologist time, and then going beyond this, you can end up at, I'm forgetting that radiologist name that posted all those YouTube videos where we'd have like 6 residents getting everything ready on his workstation before he sat down, right? That's what Agentic AI will do. That's what this will allow you to basically have. Every radiologist will have that capability, right? Without paying for 6 residents, right? It's just so exciting.
Yeah, I saw something or heard something recently that said that during a course of a radiologist reading session, their mouse moves like over a mile, which is kind of blows me away.
We shouldn't be describing machines, and we shouldn't be information retrieval gophers. We should be taking it all in and integrating it into a conclusion that helps clinicians and patients move forward. And I think this kind of agentic way of retrieval of information through a system that is heterogeneous and complicated with historical quirks, and to be able to have a system that does this fairly naturally and quickly for me, would make a tremendous step towards me regaining my focus towards what my core value add competence is, which is understanding the whole of the patient and integrating that.
Yeah, so I think I'm really excited about RADPAIR putting out an SDK into the open domain, and really hope that can be the nidus for designing kind of the bigger picture of an overall programming interface, an overall scripting interface, an overall AI access interface for a number of different elements in the imaging informatics ecosystem, not just the reporting tools, right? I think we can use that as a template for other kinds of both data access and functionality that we want to expose to the different tools and agents that we're creating within that we want to create within the ecosystem. And I think that it's really exciting that that RADPAIR is doing this in such an open and public way. And as I said, I really want to, and I'm going to be working with your team to try and use that as to kickstart a conversation with a number of the different stakeholders in this area, both on the academic side and within the vendor community, to figure out how we can use that to be at least a jumping off point for that future where all of the tools in our ecosystem are making their information and functionality available to all of the other tools, so that we can really start to achieve levels of orchestration and assistance in the radiology workflows that AI has been promising us. I think the important thing about an effort like this of moving toward a common open SDK is that it's not intended to replace the projects that have been going on for so long, like IHE processes or the Common Data Element project from ACR, RSNA, or RadWex ontologies or other ontologies that people have worked on over the years, but rather I think becomes an opportunity for those projects to finally realize so much of their potential by having them usefully incorporated into something that is designed to be used in tool creation. And so part of what I hope I can help bring to the table is the integration with so many of those useful systems that my friends and colleagues have built over the years, and really bring them into and find the really useful kernel of them, and help bring that content together into a way that the vendor community can start to incorporate it into their tools in an effective way.
All of this collective work between RADPAIR and our partners has led to a new paradigm: AI-driven agentic workflow. We now introduce PAIR 3.0, the next evolution of RADPAIR 2.0, and the culmination of everything you've heard today. Built upon our SDK and powered by multi-agent AI, PAIR 3.0 empowers radiologists to transform their workflows, a vision brought to life by our Chief Operating Officer, KZ.
Hey, so there's a 1.1 by 1.2 centimeter solid nodule in the right thyroid lobe. It's hypoechoic. Shoot, I forgot the rest of the criteria. Can you tell me the remainder of the criteria for adding up the score?
Still need shape, margin, echogenic foci.
Okay, so shape is taller than wide, the margin is smooth, and the echogenic foci are present in macro calcifications.
Per ACR TI RADS, this is TR5. Recommend fine needle aspiration if 1.0 centimeters, otherwise ultrasound follow-up annually for up to 5 years.
Okay, add the recommendation to the report. Alright, can you read me the impression from the prior?
The impression states extensive tumor burden, significant mass effect, and subfalcine herniation.
Open the most recent relevant prior. Copy findings from prior report to current report. Okay, there's been a progression in the midline shift to 10 millimeters. And can you delete the third impression point? Okay, change the history to urinary retention. Show me liver. What's the volume of the liver?
The liver measures 1,301.63 cubic centimeters.
Add that to the report. All right, let's sign it.
Signed report.
That's been the core mission and vision of RADPAIR, is to allow the radiologists to do their jobs and do it effectively and do it ultimately with joy. We always say we want to bring the joy back to reporting. This is something that I think everybody should agree that should be given freely to the imaging field, and should be something that all of us agree can make us better, which is why I've reached out to even our competitors. I've reached out to standards committees, and we want every vendor to come join us on this journey. This isn't about any one company. This is about all the folks that are behind it, who are saying let's work on this together and ensure that we deliver better care for our patients. So that's why I'm super excited about this. I think as we grow this coalition, as more people hear about what we're doing, but you're going to see more and more people join this coalition, and hopefully by the time you see us at RSNA, it'll have grown even further, and we'll have started a pretty nice movement together.
The future of AI-driven workflow awaits. There's so much more to show. Come experience PAIR 3.0 live at RSNA, at the booth 4932, and across multiple partner booths on the RSNA floor. Sign up for a demo and see the future for yourself. Go to radpair.com for more.